All right, let's talk about some of the advantages of seller financing in itself. Not of the business, but of just getting the seller to finance for us. All right? Anytime we can get a seller to take back a mortgage or a trust deed on their property involving monthly payments, we always get a lower rate with lower payments than if we go down to the bank and borrow money. Of all of the hundreds of loans that I have given sellers, never have I ever even come close to bank rate. Ever. Most of the time they don't expect bank rates, and when they do expect bank rates, it's very easy to talk them out of bank rates. If an interest rate is the most important thing on your seller's mind, there's a very good chance you're in the wrong living room to begin with. You haven't pre-screened your seller very well. You always have lower closing costs when you're doing seller financing. And the first thing, there's no points involved here. There's no processing fees. There's no surveys. There's none of that junk that you waste money on when you're going down to the bank and getting a loan. Closing costs are always less. No banks to deal with. The seller carryback loans do not show on your credit report. Even if you were to be dumb enough to buy one in your own name and sign the note in your own name, it would not show on your credit report. I'm going to teach you to use land trust to buy properties, to use land trust to originate notes, and you will learn how to eliminate personal risk along the way. There's a tape within this module all about land trust with all the agreements necessary for you to learn everything you need to know about land trust. Flexibility. That's one of the biggest reasons I love seller financing. No matter what deal I create today with an individual, I can always change it later if I need to. If things change, I can change those things with the seller. I can change the deal. I can change the terms. Anytime that I'm dealing with a person, there's always room for change. Try that with banks. They're not very flexible. No personal liability on seller financing. It solves negative cash flow. If I'm creating properties that I want to use for keepers, if I'm looking for deals that I want to turn into rental properties for long-term growth, there is no better way in the world than to do it with seller financing. Again, because of all of the other reasons, including the flexibility, but also because I can create a low enough payment when I've got the seller to work with by structuring several different kinds of financing plans to drive that payment down to ensure my monthly positive cash flow, even in areas like L.A. I get this all the time from people out in L.A. and California. You ain't going to get no positive cash flow out here. And my comeback to that is, if I'm not getting positive cash flow out there, it's because you don't know how to deal with sellers and create seller financing. There ain't a price range in the world I can't get positive cash flow from if I got a seller willing to work with me to create some seller financing to ensure that I do. Now, I ain't going to get no positive cash flow in L.A. going down to the bank and getting a loan and renting it out. But if I'm stupid enough to do that, I get what I deserve anyway, don't I? It's not the way we buy houses, folks. We do not buy houses so we can go to the bank and get loans so we have the privilege of becoming a landlord. We buy houses so that we don't have to go to the bank to get loans, so that we can become landlords if we wish and retire rich without grief and without personal liability, or we go create solutions with sellers that eliminate us from personal liability to begin with and also offer that flexibility that I'm talking about to change later. And I'm going to come up with some examples of that flexibility here before I'm through. You have no due on sale clause or balloons when you're giving sellers back notes and mortgages, unless, of course, you have to yield on the balloon to make the deal happen. If a seller insists on a balloon, I don't have any problem with it. I'll show you that I can give the seller a balloon, still make it attractive for my buyer to buy, putting the balloon far enough away where it's not a problem for them. And I find very little resistance to selling houses with balloons in them as long as they're not a week from Friday. It has not stopped me from selling. It has not stopped me from buying. As far as due on sale clauses, I am going to show you how to leave them out most of the time. Then I'm going to show you how to put them in if the seller insists and still make it a no qualifying loan. It sets you up for future profit centers by discounting. When you understand the true value of discounting, you'll understand that that is one of your biggest profit centers. And when you're dealing with seller financing, you get to close quickly as the seller is ready. Now let's go into some examples of what I'm talking about here. And this is probably one of the most important parts of this course because it brings home what we say when we mean when we say seller financing. Again, I don't know how else to label it, but it does not mean that the seller takes financing back all the time. In our first example, the seller does. Okay, let's look at a few examples here to see if it makes sense for you to devote the time and the money or resources that it takes to do this business. Again, it takes very little money. But let's look at our first example, number one. Seller calls you with a house worth $150,000 in good condition. He's asking $145,000. He is free and clear. And after pre-screening him, you find out he'd be willing to owner finance with a 10% down payment. So he's asking $150,000 or $145,000. It's worth $150,000. He wants $14,500 down, which would leave a mortgage that the seller would take back, and this will be a first mortgage in this case, of $130,500. And the seller is asking for 9%. He wants a 30-year amortization, but he wants a 10-year balloon. Is that an abnormal deal? Seller's asking for almost retail price, asking for a pretty good sized down payment, willing to finance at 9%, which is even higher than bank rate, isn't it? Today, as at the time of this taping, the bank rate is 8.5% fixed. Okay? And you come back with an offer. Now remember, this house is only worth $150,000, and you're offering the seller $140,000. Are you stealing this house? No way. Nobody in their right mind pay $140,000 for a house worth $150,000, would they? Except me. Because I've just changed the offer a little bit. Instead of giving the seller $14,500 down, I decided that I'll go ahead and give the seller $5,000 down. And if I can get over that hurdle, we got a deal, because I'm sure that price ain't going to be a problem. Only asking for a $5,000 reduction in price. Now, is that a lot to ask the seller for? Think about it. If that seller was selling that house for $145,000 through a realtor, how much reduction in price would they get? 7% like that, wouldn't they, for commission? So I'm not going to have any problem getting him down $5,000. In fact, the truth is, in real life, I'd go much lower than that. But this makes a good example, because this example will work on this very conservative approach. All right? I offer him $5,000 down. If I can't get over that hurdle and he insists on more than that, I probably won't do the deal. But I'm exchanging almost retail price for lowering the down payment. And if I do that, that means the seller's taking back a first mortgage or a first trust deed. In this case, I'm going to ask him to take it back at 7% instead of 9% for 30 years, and I'm going to give him his 10-year balloon. With payments of $898.16, with the first one due 3 months from the date of closing. Now, why would I do that? Because now I've got 3 months without a payment. Even if I sell this house 3 days from now, folks, and they start making me a payment 30 days from then, I still got 3 payments that I don't have to make. So I've just made myself almost another $3,000 by wagging my tongue. And even if I don't sell it immediately, I got 3 months. Can you see any problem selling a gorgeous house in a nice neighborhood with no qualifying owner financing, which you're delivering, with a reasonable down payment in 3 months? Hello? How long should it take you to sell these kind of houses with no qualifying financing? A week if you don't have a buyer's list. If you don't have a buyer's list. Question in the back. Yes?
During the 3 months, when you're not making a payment, is he accumulating interest? The buyer?
I didn't offer him any such thing. I said payments due in 3 months. I would say, that, the way I would word it is this. Interest to begin 2 months after closing. Then the payment would be due 3 months, wouldn't it? Interest has to accrue for a month before it's due. Folks, I almost never have a problem when there's no underlying payment getting a seller to take back a loan and giving me 2 or 3 months free. Almost never. Even when I'm doing a second mortgage and the seller's got a first mortgage, I'll agree to make the first mortgage payment, but I'll get several months on the second mortgage before I have to start paying him. I almost never have a problem with that. I can't remember where it's ever been a deal killer. If you ask for it, you usually get it. And if the seller comes back and says, well, why do you need so much time? because I need time to find me a good qualified occupant. And I don't want to make payments till I do. It's never been a problem for me. Okay? All right, I made this offer. And let's assume it got accepted. Now what do we do? What? Panic. Well, that'd be the normal thing to do. However, how much money have I got in the seller's hands right now? I didn't tell you, did I? Oh, let's say it took $100. Ah, it took $500. What's the worst going to happen to this point? Okay, folks, anybody who won't go close on a $150,000 house that you can get into for $5,000 and get no qualifying financing with a payment at 7%, don't understand the program. At this point, you have zero risk. First of all, the title's got to be good or you get your deposit back. Any contract says that. Any contract. You got no risk here. You've got such an easy sale. You set up such a slam dunk sale here. They're going to be crawling all over you to buy this house. So let's look and see how we're going to sell it. Remember what I said earlier about, first of all, what's this house worth? $150,000. So therefore, when I'm supplying no qualifying financing and my buyer doesn't have to go to the bank and the only thing they need to get in this house is a down payment that suits me and the ability to make the payments to my justification, what should I sell it for? More. What do you mean more? More than $150,000? But it won't appraise for more. You mean I can sell it for more than it'll appraise for? Well, how much would you sell it for? $160,000. Boy, that takes nerve. House only appraised for $150,000 and I'll sell it for $160,000. Let me ask you, I'm taking it easy on him, I really am. Let me ask you a question. If you're an appraiser, is this house worth more because I'm providing no qualifying financing than one sitting right beside it exactly like it that requires bank financing? Yes, it is. Not only in my opinion, but in the real world. Has any of you ever been asked by an appraiser, was there any owner financing involved when he was doing an appraisal on one of your properties or one of your comps? They asked that because if there was owner financing involved, they realized that it could have been sold for more than on if traditional financing terms were used. The truth is, if I am providing such sweet financing, it really is worth more, not just because I decided to jack up the price. Is it worth more to my buyer? Truth is, I probably could sell it for more than $160,000, couldn't I? But I want to be kinder and gentler. So I'm just going to put a $160,000 price on it. All right? How much do you think I ought to get down from this buyer? All right, let's examine that. Let's suppose that I'm selling a $160,000 house and I got a squeaky clean buyer. Excellent credit, debt ratio's right in line. And they're going down to the bank and they're getting a loan. How much money will they need, folks? Would you say, and I mean, if they walk on water, they're going to need 5% plus closing costs, aren't they? Hello? Which comes out to probably, what would you think, probably $12,000, $13,000 easy? Huh? 5% plus closing costs, 5% is what? $9,000 in itself, isn't it? $8,000, okay? And then closing costs, they're going to have $12,000, $12,000, $13,000 in buying this house. And that's the least, that's the cheapest they can get in, and they got to be squeaky clean to get 95% financing nowadays, don't they? Okay? More commonly, they're going to need 10% down plus closing costs, aren't they? I mean, if they got one little blemish on their credit report, they're going to need 10% plus closing costs, which means they're going to need about $20,000. Do you think maybe if I can circumvent all that now and the only thing standing between my buyer and getting this house is what I request down, that I could at least ask what the market would bear down if they were qualified? In fact, the truth is, could I ask considerably more and get it? Yes. How many of you have ever run a no qualifying ad or an owner financing ad?
We have more calls and more people with more money than we can handle. In fact, don't you get calls a month after you cancel the ad?
It hasn't been a month yet that we're still getting calls.
Still getting calls. Okay, it's amazing. You can cancel the ad. You think they throw away the paper, wouldn't you? They don't. They bug you to death. You run a no qualifying ad. You put owner financing or no qualifying in your ads and see what happens. Who else has run some? Okay? What happened?
Well, I sold the houses.
Well, thank you. Did you get a lot of calls?
Oh, yeah, I got plenty of calls.
No banks required?
Yep.
And that was your first word you had?
Yep.
I never tried that.
Oh,
Y'all ought to write that down, try it. No banks required. That might even be better than no qualifying. I don't know.
At the retail house.
Have you? Okay. What'd you get?
I found people with as high as $40,000 down.
What price range houses?
This is about 130.
130? Okay. So what you're telling me is then by running the ad and doing the right things by pre-screening those callers, you'll find a whole heap of people with great big chunks of cash, but their credit sucks. Isn't that true? Exactly. And what's more important to us, the cash or the credit? Cash. In this business, that is. Cash. You bet. So, we are providing a beautiful home in a beautiful area. We're asking only $20,000 down in our example on a $160,000 house, and we're offering our buyer payments of $1,228 a month on a $160,000 house. Do you think we're going to have any trouble selling it? If they went down to the bank and got financing, would they have at least the $1,228 payment? Say yes, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Have you done your buyers a tremendous favor? We should wear white hats, shouldn't we? We're definitely the good guys. Okay? Now, in this example, I'm telling you, folks, you ain't got to worry about selling this baby. You got to worry about fighting them off. You could get more down, and you could get more per month. Now, what we're going to do here is what we call a wraparound mortgage, or an all-inclusive trust deed, or an agreement for deed, or a land contract. It depends on where you live, and it's irrelevant what document you use. It all accomplishes the same thing. In this course, there will be plenty of material on all of those documents, how to use them, and the documents included in there. All right? So what we're done here is we're creating a debt owed us by our buyer for $140,000, and we still owe out $135,000 to our seller, don't we? But watch the results here, folks. Have we created a massive spread? Have we created a big equity in this deal? No. We owe out $135,000. They owe us $140,000. That's no big equity, is it? But let's see what our profit centers are. Profit center number one. Did we not get $15,000 profit from the difference between the $5,000 we paid the seller and the $20,000 we got from the buyer? Hello? Yeah. How many days from the time the ink dried on the agreement that we bought to buy the house do you think it would take us to get the seller in the house and get the money in our hand? The answer is it depends on whether the house is vacant when we found it and whether the seller needs to move out of the house before we can sell it. And you'll do it both ways. That's why I love vacant houses, by the way. I love them vacant because I know I got immediate access and I got immediate closing if I need to. But I've probably bought just as many occupied as I have vacant. Occupied, you deal around the seller. If it's occupied, you should have a buyer ready to go as soon as the seller moves out. Or if you close before the seller moves out, you could physically close with your buyer and let them move in when the seller gets out. It can be done any number of several ways. It really depends on your seller's needs. If your seller needs the money to move, you might want to close before the seller gets out. If the seller doesn't need the money to move, you might want to wait till the seller's out before you close. In fact, I prefer that. Okay. Monthly spread. You're paying out $898.16 per month, and you're collecting $1,228.60 per month. That means that you're making $330.44 per month on a house you do not own anymore. Now, how long will you make that $344 per month? You'll make it for at least the 10 years before your seller's balloon comes due, won't you? Incidentally, if you sell this house, do you have to put a balloon in your mortgage that you're taking back? I would suggest it. If you got a 10-year balloon due your seller, you best have less than 10 years due from your buyer, folks. Common sense would dictate that. So within 10 years, your buyer's got to either go sell the house to somebody who go gets a new loan, or they got to go refinance it. So you're passing that on here. Okay? Third avenue of income is the absolute least you can make on the back end is $5,000 because they owe you $140 and you owe out $135. That's the least you can make on that back end. And the truth is, before I'm through, I'm going to show you how to increase that back end profit tremendously by discounting this mortgage. And this is the example that I'm going to use, so keep this one in mind. I'll set it aside and we'll come back to it when we talk about that. All right? That is type of property number one, where it's free and clear and the seller will finance the entire balance with a down payment of some sort. Or perhaps you think that there aren't any of those out there. Are there any of those where you live?
Oh, yeah.
Any of them in Cleveland? Maybe not, John. Won't work in Cleveland. There's a lot of houses out there free and clear, folks. A lot of them. Especially owned by elderly. Question in the back.
Okay, on these here, when you're going back to the seller, okay, then you've got to be sure that they're going to be willing to do that wrap before you can do this type of financing.
Oh, no, you missed something.
I must have.
Does my seller have to know or have a clue what I'm going to do? All my seller needs to know is that I'm going to pay him $880 a month for 30 years with a 10-year balloon at 7% interest. What I do with it after they sign the deed to me is none of their business. And what she's concerned about is the due on sale clause that would be in most notes and mortgages.
And
she thinks that I need the seller's permission to transfer title to this property. Isn't that correct?
If you don't have due on sale.
I won't have a due on sale clause, or in a minute I'll show you how to handle it if I do have a due on sale clause. Okay? Good question. Yeah. Not going to stop me, but good question. Okay. Let's take an example 2 here. Now, in the first one, the house is free and clear. You won't find near as many of them as you find of this type of example, where you'll have some mortgage on the property, but still quite a bit of equity. Seller calls you with a house worth $125,000 in good condition. The loan balance is $118,000. Okay? Let me rephrase on this. Example 2 is the absolute most common scenario you're going to run across. The absolute most common. Example 2 is what most people don't understand is available out there. Example 2, you'll be able to do one by the end of next week if you get people calling you with houses for sale. So if you are asleep prior to now, wake up. If you folks that are out there listening to these tapes are driving down the road, pull over and rewind. Seller calls you with a house worth $125,000 in good condition. The loan balance is $118,000. Is there much equity in this house? Is this seller concerned about their equity? What are they concerned about? They're concerned about the $953 a month payment, which includes taxes and insurance. He just completed a heated divorce and is ready to abandon the house if someone doesn't offer him a solution. You learn he's one payment behind and his ex-wife deeded him the house. Is this a very common scenario? Not necessarily just completed a heated divorce, but being in a position to where they have very little equity and maybe even one payment behind, getting ready to leave and abandon the property if you don't come riding in on your white horse in your shining armor and offer them a solution. Now, folks, who do you know in your city that is an investor looking for a deal that could do anything with this scenario? Besides you. If this individual called most of you people in the room and gave you these facts, what would happen? Click. Now, you wouldn't hang up on him and be that rude, would you? You'd talk to him probably for 20 minutes when you knew in 20 seconds you couldn't help him. And you'd politely get him off the phone, right? Right. Right. Let's see if we can't turn this into a money-making venture. I'm going to offer this individual, oh, by the way, he's asking $1,000 for moving money. Even though he's got 1 foot out the door, is he going to get the moving money if you don't do anything? Is anybody else going to give him moving money? By the way, as a realtor, I'm going to list this house. It's 1 payment behind, and there's barely enough room to get the commission out of it. He's got a problem, doesn't he? Hello? Yeah. He's got a problem. And again, this is a very normal, real problem. Okay? Realtor may have already listed the house. We don't know and it not get sold. Okay? Your offer. Take over the loan subject to of $118,000. You will start making payments on this property when and if you find the buyer. You make that perfectly clear to the seller, and I'll show you how to do that. And you might even be good today and give him the moving money if he leaves the appliances. And if he's got his foot out the door, he don't want to take the appliances anyway, does he? In fact, you'll give him the moving money if he leaves the appliances and anything else you see you want, right? Okay. He just wanted to get away from his ex-wife. Now, in this particular example, folks, am I looking to get a contract signed on this deal? Or what am I looking to do? What would I like to do? What would be the ideal situation if I walked into this individual's house? He says, look, I'm leaving Tuesday. Whatever happens, I'm leaving Tuesday. I'm 1 payment behind. If you don't do something, I'm gone anyway. Not a quick claim deed, a warranty deed. Not that it matters. Okay? Same as a grant deed. Just get a deed. I don't care what kind it is. Okay? And hand him the $1,000 if you have to. In fact, if I hand this individual, first thing I'd want to find out in this case is how he got title from his wife, wouldn't you? I would want to see a recorded deed from his wife, or I would want the original deed in my hand so that I could go record it. Just to make sure I don't need the wife's signature. Because without that, do I need the wife's signature? You bet your bippy. And if the wife has deeded it to him, or if the court has awarded by divorce decree him the property, then he's the only one I got to deal with. So I could physically hand over $1,000 worth of cash or check or whatever if I find a seller who's willing to walk, and I'm telling you folks, you're going to run across them. If I hand them $1,000 right then and there, I could do that if I wanted, couldn't I? When that individual hands me that deed signed and notarized, now I'll take him down to some car lot or something and get him notarized, assuming that I don't have a notary with me. How many of you in the room are notaries? Okay, the rest of you should be. You should all be notaries. All you have to do is call your insurance company and say, I want to be a notary. Pay the fee, fill out the form, you're a notary. That way you can be a notary for him and vice versa. Okay? You and all your friends should be notaries. Everybody you know should be notaries. You should walk around with notary applications in your pocket. Okay? Just kidding. Huh? Question?
In reference to the notary issue, can, like, you and your wife both...
No.
Okay.
I cannot notarize for my wife, and she can't notarize for me. Nobody in your family can notarize anything for you. And that means even if it's your corporation, and you're the president, and your wife notarized something for you as the corporate, it cannot be. If you got any relationship whatsoever to the notary, you cannot use that notary. That's why you need to have your friend be your notary. Okay? Now, if that individual, Chet's here, I'm going to make you my seller, Chet, okay? Because you're easy to pick on because you're right up front. Chet's my seller. Chet calls me over, we have a conversation. Chet says, I'm getting out of here. I'm sick of this house. When I look around, all I see is my ex-wife. I'm leaving. And I don't care if the payments ever get made, and I don't care if what happens. My credit's already shot anyway. All right? When Chet signs that deed and hands it to me,
Do I now own Chet's house?
Yep.
The answer is yes. I own the property, folks, the minute the deed is delivered, not the minute it is recorded. Now, obviously, if I want to protect my interest, I better do what? I better get it recorded, of course, because the first deed to the courthouse is the deed that will be upheld. However, do I own the property just the same the minute Chet hands me the deed? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I am owning title to this piece of real estate worth $125,000. Now, of course, do I inherit the $118,000 loan with it? Yes, I do. The loan stays on the property. Just because Chet transferred title does not mean that the loan goes away. However, is the loan still in Chet's name?
Yep.
Yes, it is. Will the loan stay in Chet's name until it is paid off, assumed, or until, well, even if he dies, it'll stay in his name, won't it?
Yep.
Okay? I was going to say until he dies. No, still stay in his name until it's paid off or assumed. All right? I'm going to have to tell Chet this now as if he didn't know. I'm going to have to tell Chet point blank, I cannot assume your loan, Chet. It's not assumable, or it is assumable with qualifying, and I will not qualify to assume it under any circumstances. I'll just tell him point blank. I said, Chet, I intend to put somebody else in this house. I'll get what I can from a down payment from them. I will let them take over and pay your loan. They may not qualify to assume it. That's the best that I can offer you, and I can't even promise you that's going to happen, Chet. Now remember, what kind of seller is Chet? He's halfway out the door, isn't he? Is any of this, is all of this falling on deaf ears anyway? Does he care? If I go away and we don't do a deal, what happens to Chet's house? He's gone. And the bank owns it. And they'll take a beating on it reselling it. So am I putting Chet in any risk whatsoever that wasn't already relevant before I showed up? Is everybody clear on that?
Yep.
Okay. When he delivers me the deed, and I deliver him my $1,000, I own the house. I get the loan with it, and what I've just done is what's called taking Chet's loan subject to. I did not assume Chet's loan. My name appears nowhere on Chet's loan, nor does it appear anywhere on the bank's documents. The bank does not even recognize my existence. If I call the bank and try to get information on Chet's loan, they won't give it to me. Simply because they don't know I exist. And they won't recognize me because I did not formally assume it. Now, in this scenario, can they call a loan due? Yes, they can. As soon as I record my deed, if they find out about it. They can, can't they? If I make up the payments, will they? Oh, they could, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Will they?
Not likely. They want their money instead.
Folks, banks have enough problems with loans already in default. They sure don't want to create defaulted loans if they can see a way not to do it. They will not call this loan due, but you need to understand they could. And every once in a while they get a hair up their butt and do. Not very often. But let's analyze that for a minute before we go on. If you buy this house from Chet and if you give him $1,000, how much you got at risk?
$1,000.
Do you own the house?
Yes.
Do you own the refrigerator?
Yeah.
Do you own the range?
Yep.
Do you own the air conditioner? Do you own the kitchen? If this bank decides they want to call this loan due, who is in control?
The owner.
Who will stay in control? Okay? Do you see any way you can lose in this deal? Did you agree to assume the loan as your name on the loan? Will anybody come after you personally to collect the debt if this loan doesn't get paid? Folks, if you don't sign your name on that note, there's no way anybody's going to be knocking on your door to collect. You understand that?
Yet you still own the property.
But I own the house.
So the bank can't take the house?
Oh, the bank can take the house. What's left of it? Did you say that? All right, I know I'm going to get some flack on this one. I can just hear some lawyer listening to this set of tapes. God, I can't believe he said that.
Ron,
now, I did not tell you. Did I tell you to steal a kitchen out of a house? I didn't say that, did I?
No.
Okay.
Is this a good place to confront the bank and tell them that I'll make up the payments if you want it, or if you're going to call the thing due, have it out with them right then?
All right, good question, Coy. But let me tell you what I'm going to do here, Coy. The last thing in the world I want to do is confront a bank. Here's what I'm going to do. As soon as Chet signs the deed, the next thing I'm going to do is go check the title to make sure that I can deliver clear title to my buyer. Because, folks, if I can't deliver clear title to my buyer, it's over. I'm going to get my $1,000 one way or the other. Okay? Do I own this house? Yes. Could I rent it out if I wanted to? I could. I doubt that I would. With a 950, I don't know, I might. Depends on what the market value of rent in my area could be. But if I can't deliver clear title, and I can't get the title cleared up without a whole lot of work, I'm at a point now where I got to get my $1,000 back somehow. I'm going to let your imagination run wild on that one. You figure it out. All right? I got to check the title. If the title is good, however, I know that I've got a transaction here that I can pass on to the end user. I'm not going to get the bank's permission. All that'll do is muddy up the water, create a mess. What I'm simply going to do is find my buyer first, and then I am going to make the payment up out of the buyer's money that the buyer brings me, and I'm not going to ask their permission to send them the money. I'm just going to do it. And you know what? They're going to take it. Okay, let's see what we're going to sell this house for. What did we say it was worth? $125. So that means we can't sell it for any more than that, can we?
Oh, yes, we can.
Boy, y'all catch on quickly. All right? We'll sell it for $135. Remember, kinder and gentler. All right? Now, my sales price is $135,000. There's a loan on it for $118,000. What if I just get $17,000 cash from my buyer and let them take over the loan the exact same way I did? I'll deed you the house. You make payments on the loan. If you want to assume it, go for it. If you don't go for it. I could care less. If I do that, what have I accomplished? I had to make a payment, didn't I? So I have to take that from my $17,000.
$1,000 moving money.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I gave him $1,000. That's right. So I made $15,000 on the deal. How long did it take me to do this? Now remember, what kind of shape was this house in? Good condition. If it ain't in good condition, I want the seller to fix it. I don't want to fix it. How long should it take me? A few days. In this example, do I have a monthly spread? No. I didn't take a monthly spread. I let my buyer take over the loan. I don't want to do no wrap. I just want out of this deal, be done with it, take my cash, and go to the Bahamas. Do I have any kind of residual income from this deal whatsoever? Nope. I've done it for the front-end profit only. Is it worthwhile? You think you're going to get any of these kind of deals at you? By the gazillions. By the gazillions. Okay, John, you got the mic.
Wouldn't you have checked the title before he deeded you the property, or you would have just went straight?
He's halfway out the door, John.
All you want's a signature.
If I get the deed and I know he's the owner, and I'll look at his documents to determine that, I want the signature and I want it notarized. I'll fill in a legal description later. Okay? I want to get all his papers from him. I'll give him his $1,000. See you, Chet.
So while he's ready to sign, you don't want to impede the process and say you
If he's ready to sign, I'm ready to receive the signature. Especially if I know I can't lose. Now, isn't that the key here? Now, if I were writing him a check for $10,000, would this be a different animal? You bet your bippy. You bet. When I've only got $1,000 to lose, don't I know up here that that's the most I could ever lose under any circumstances? Hello? Yeah. Yes. Do I know I ain't going to worry about that? Yes. Now, if he's not in a hurry and it's going to take him 4 or 5 days to get out, I'll just get him to sign a purchase and sale agreement, go check the title, and then meet him later to get the deed. All right? All right, let's take a question in the back first. I got to have you on a mic. Is somebody on a mic while he's coming up?
Yeah, right here.
All right, Kevin, you're next.
On these deals, though, it's kind of a statement question. How do you deal with a lawyer for your buyer who's going to want to see some documentation? I mean, you're dealing with a relatively sophisticated buyer.
In New York, you're going to have a little problem getting this by a lawyer, so I'm going to suggest that you go get a lawyer who understands what you're doing. I'm going to show you in a minute some CYA letters that buyer and seller is going to sign anyway.
Okay.
Okay? And you're going to have to get a lawyer on your team to close, and you're going to have to guide your buyer to that lawyer.
Yeah.
Or your lawyer is going to screw up your deal. Yes?
Ron, since you don't want to muddy up the water when you make this payment to the bank, whose name do you make this payment, on your check?
I'll get the payment book from Chet. I'll include one of his payment slips, and I'll put my check in there with it.
With your name on the check and everything, they don't care?
Sure. I'm not keeping any secrets from the bank. If they want to call a loan due, God bless them.
Okay.
I don't want to make payments anyway. I just soon keep the money. They're not, I'm telling you, you're not going to have a problem with it, except in one case that I know of. If the bank has a credit line out to Chet, they will call that loan due every single time, in my experience. If he's got a regular standard mortgage, you shouldn't have a problem. But if the bank's giving him a credit line as a second mortgage or something, they'll nail it every time. And for obvious reasons. He can go out and draw money on the credit line. He don't even own the house anymore. He could just extend it to the nth degree and go file bankruptcy. If it's got a credit line on it, I won't do it. Period. Yes.
Okay, a little different twist. If they don't come up with the $17,000 down payment, is there anything else that you would do and still put them in that house?
Why, certainly. You want to be my buyer? Okay. Let him have the mic back. He wants to be my buyer. He's called on my ad. It says no qualifying. $135,000 house, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,688 square feet. Pretty. And you're calling me up on the telephone. And you're telling me that you don't have $17,000. Here's the way this conversation is going to go, by the way. I'm a little ahead of myself. He's calling me up, and I'm going to quiz him like this. I'm going to say, hello.
Hello. I'm calling on that house that you got for sale. I'm interested.
Sure. My name is Ron. Yours?
I'm Lou.
All right, Lou, what can I tell you that you don't already know?
What do you want down? And basically, what kind of owner financing you got?
Well, Lou, I'm asking $135,000 for the house. There's $118,000 owed on it. I'd like to get the difference.
Okay, how do you want it?
Cash.
How else you want it?
Been to my seminar, ain't you, Lou?
Yeah.
Using my own weapons against me, aren't you, Lou? Are you telling me, Lou, that you don't have $17,000?
Well, I'd like to do it another way.
How much you got, Lou?
For that type of house, I like to put down 10.
Is that all you can come up with, Lou?
Yeah, that's about the max.
Okay. If I took your 10 and put you in the house, how could you pay me the other 7?
Well, I could do it on a monthly basis, or.
What'd you have in mind?
Well, I don't know about. I guess about 200. You say the payment's going to be 9, so I don't want to go over 12.
Could I take anything he offers me at that point? Yes. If I got a buyer who's got 10, I get the other 7 any way I can get it. How much I got in this deal so far? $1,000 plus $958 payment or whatever it was. Okay, that still leaves me with 8, doesn't it? Lou, you got any gold, jewelry, diamonds, horses, mobile homes, motor homes? Got any gold teeth you want to get rid of? Stocks, bonds. What you got, Lou? I'll take it. I'm a horse trader. What you got, man? I'll take anything.
Okay, now what I'm saying is that going to? I mean, you would actually do that.
I have
done it. You would actually take somebody's gold and stock.
Many times I've done it. Many times. Okay.
Okay.
I didn't take the RV on a trade. That was a different story. Okay.
Okay, on both of these, you did go ahead and record the deed.
I only record the deed when I find my buyer here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to record my deed to Lou right after I record my deed from Chet. In this case, until I got a buyer, there's no reason for me to go to record a deed.
Okay, so you're not going to record it?
No, I'm not going to go record it.
You have a seller, then you're going to go and record the deed.
I'm going to go record the deed.
to my trust, and then I'm going to deed it to Chet. And many times I will have Chet deed it directly to Lou. Chet just didn't know that he did it. That's all. I'll just tell Chet I'm going to leave the grantee blank on the deed.
Okay, but the seller understands the type
That
of
could
mortgage.
create a problem now in some of your states.
Okay, but the seller understands the type of mortgage they're going to have.
Oh, I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. Next question.
I'm assuming if you find that there's a lot of liens against the house, that you'll just walk from your 1,000 and not record it?
That's correct. If I find there's a lot of liens on the house, I didn't say, well, I said I was going to walk from my 1,000, didn't I? That's not correct. I'm going to get my 1,000, but I'm not going to record the deed. Why should I? I don't have any reason to if I'm not going to be able to save the house. By the way, is it my fault I'm not saving the house? You lied to me, Chet. All kinds of crap on you. You didn't tell me you had a $50,000 IRS lien on you. Oh, God. And you also forgot to tell me about that judgment you had for $20,000 where you didn't pay your MasterCard.
Wife didn't sign off.
Oh, you also forgot to tell me that your wife didn't sign the deed. She just meant to. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, Ron, what happens, that FYI, those letters you said, could the buyers...
CYA, you mean?
Yeah, CYA, cover your end or whatever. Two things here.
Cover your assets.
Yes. Will that be enough to save you then?
Save me from what?
From, I guess, him coming back after you. Let's say Chet...
well, let's talk about that when I get to it.
You could say you're Mr. Sophisticated.
I'm going to cover that.
Okay, number two is, so you would never accept a deed with a line of credit on it then? One of those kind of mortgages? If I was going to give you a deed.
I probably wouldn't if I intended to sell it to Lou, knowing that I know it's going to get called due on him. Unless, of course, now, what if Lou comes in and he's actually qualified to refinance? And I make a deal with him. I say, Lou, I'm telling you, if they find out that this loan is here, they're going to call it due. So as long as you know you can go refinance it, we don't have a problem. You need to understand that if you can't, that's your problem, not my problem. And I've sold quite a few like that. They actually can qualify, but they want instant occupancy. They'll go qualify and to assume or refinance at their discretion, and only when somebody forces them to. That credit line could be on that house for 2 years before that bank finds out about it. It's been transferred. I'm telling you, they slow. It might never get called. Or it might. Oh, yeah. Lou can be put out of the house if the bank calls a loan due, can he? Okay, you guys want me to get around to these CYA letters, don't you? I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get to them when I get to them. You're going to mess me up here. All right, next question. Subject to? What's the question? Subject to simply means that I am not assuming the loan. I'm taking title to the property subject to the existing loan. I'm not assuming and agreeing to pay it. It's just a term they use for that situation. You either assume it or you take it subject to. Yes. She asked me if I knew the house was going down the tubes, would I record the deed? The answer is no. It'd be a waste of recording costs and transfer tax and all that. Okay? Next question. All right. Yes. This is a non-assumable loan, or basically most loans are really not non-assumable. They're assumable with qualifying. Okay? Either way. Now, incidentally, if I sold this house to Lou and Lou could qualify, could he go down and assume it at his discretion? In fact, if the bank does get a hair up their butt, isn't that what they're going to try to get him to do? Yeah. Yes. So if he can qualify and he wants to go do that, up to him. If he can't qualify and he don't want to go do that, up to him what he does. Yes?
I would think most buyers would be very leery of putting up the money when they have it hanging over them.
You would think that because you're... Oh, I'm sorry. He says he would think that most buyers would be very leery of putting up the money when they have this hanging over them. And he would think that because he can go down and qualify for a loan. When you can't go down and qualify for a loan, and you get a chance to buy a nice house in a nice area, and you're only talking about $17,000 in this case, you have to make a decision. Do I want this house that I can call my own on the slim chance that they'll call it due and that I can't make a deal with them, or do I want to take a risk? And many times I will point out to them, Lou, do you know that at the $1,000 a month, you'll eat up a good part of this in rent that you don't have to pay every month if they have to foreclose you out. You know that? It'd take them months to get you out. The worst case scenario, if you can't make a deal with them and they want to be a horse's patootie, I would just point blank tell Lou, sit there till they move you. You know, we're looking at this thing from the dark side, aren't we? The truth is, in real life, rarely will the bank put Lou in a position or me in a position to where they'd rather have the house than the money. And all the times that I have done it, all the times, and I have taken subject to loans hundreds of times, I've only had one time where a lender got a burr up their butt they wanted to call a loan due because it transferred. I offered them the payments. They said, no, Mr. LeGrand, we want you to come down and assume the loan. I said, nope, that wasn't the deal. Ain't going to do it. I'll make the payments, but I won't assume the loan. They said, we'll have to call a loan due. I said, go ahead. If you have to, go ahead. You know, I want to pay you, but, you know, if you don't want the payments, I can find something to do with them. They said, well, we'll have to check with my boss. They checked with his boss, and darn if they didn't call a loan due. They filed foreclosure, okay? And then a month later, I called them. I said, okay, we're in foreclosure. I still ain't coming down to assume the loan. Do you want me to make the payments up, or would you rather have the house? And by the way, if you get the house, I can't guarantee you what kind of shape it's going to be in when you get it back.
You said that?
I said that. Well, I couldn't guarantee him what kind of shape it was going to be in, could I? Huh? He point blank said to me, he says, what are you telling me? I said, well, you know, if you make me lose interest in the house, I'm not going to watch it. You know, vandalism is terrible. And I just don't know, because if I have no reason to watch the house because you won't accept my payments because you'd rather have the house, then I'm not going to watch it. And I just don't know what's going to happen to it. He got the message. Anyway.
They didn't foreclose?
He says, will you bring down the payments? I said, yes, I will. I said, well, I'll have to check. And a few days later, I got a letter. It says, if you'll come down and bring the payments plus the attorney's fees, we'll stop the foreclosure. I called him back. I said, well, you're close. I said, I'll make the payments, but I ain't eating your attorney's fees. You'll eat them or you'll own this house. He said, all right, bring me the payments. And they stopped the foreclosure. So I called their bluff. Okay, now they might have went on with it. Could I have lost in any way? No. I could not have lost. You see, when you put yourself in a position to where you can't lose, folks, it's hard to lose. Question here first.
If the interest statement now is still going to be in Chet's name and the homestead exemption is in Chet's name, how does the new seller that you sell to get the advantage of the...
Does the new seller that I sell to get a deed to the house? Yes. Can they get homestead exemption next year? Yes.
How about the interest statements?
Homestead exemption is only something we worry about in Florida, folks. First $25,000 of the property value is tax exempt. They have to live in the house and have to have title before the end of the year to make that happen. Okay, next.
Interest deduction.
The interest deduction goes to the owner of the house. Whoever's making the payments gets a deduction. Chet no longer gets a deduction for anything because he ain't making the payments. There's no difference in this sale, ladies and gentlemen, than a regular sale. There is no difference between this sale and any other sale except that Lou did not assume the loan. That's the only difference. He gets all benefits of ownership. Just because his name is not on that loan doesn't make him forfeit any rights to the house. He still owns the property, doesn't he? Question.
Okay. When you give him when he gets the payment book,
yep.
Most banks, they don't know who's paying the mortgage, they just process it. So you get a book for a year. Your new seller gets a book, new owner gets a book for a year. Then at the end of the year, he's looking for the new payment book. Are you going to call the mortgage and say...
Where does the new payment book go? To the house. And who's living in the house? Lou is.
Okay.
Will it come in his name?
No.
No. And he'll know that. So he'll get the payment book delivered right to his residence.
Also, it could be 2 years before the bank finds out who's making the payments.
I'm telling you, it don't matter most of the time. I'm not going to keep it a secret, and I'm going to make perfectly clear that Lou understands too what could happen. I got to get these CYA letters out here. Let me dig for him here.
While you're getting those letters out,
okay.
If the seller sends a letter to the bank saying that someone else is going to manage the payments,
yeah,
can he do that and have the name of the payment book transferred to Lou?
I'm telling you right now, you're trying to create problems where there ain't one. If you ask for permission, you may not get it. It's always easier to ask forgiveness than permission. If you stir up a mess, you're going to create a mess. Just make the payments and forget it. Don't ask the bank for nothing. Period. You don't need their permission. They ain't going to grant it anyway. So why ask for it? And I'm telling you, Lou's going to know that. I'm going to show you a letter that I created.
How does the buyer get proof that he paid the interest on the house?
Well, he's got a checkbook that shows he made a payment.
Yeah, but the bank's not sending him anything.
That's
saying
irrelevant what the bank sends him. Do
well,
you have to have something
the bank's
got to
tell the IRS how much interest you paid.
Do you have to have something from the bank showing that you paid the interest to claim it? No, you have to claim it. All he's got to do is produce a check if he needs to. And I don't care what the bank sends to IRS. He's not going to be claiming it. He better not be claiming it. If he does, he's committed tax fraud. Okay? He will be claiming it. It's not any more complicated than that. You all are all looking for all the picky reasons here now.
But I don't understand how you know how much of the check was interest. If you want to deduct your interest...
First of all, is that my problem? That's Lou's problem to figure that out, and an amortization table will do that for him.
I'm talking about the person who bought the house.
All right, what I'll do...
He wants to claim his payments.
All right, what I'll do, if I can, is I'll snatch the amortization schedule out of the folder that he gave me when I bought the house, and I'll hand it to him. He can pick up where he started and figure out what his interest is. Or he can have his accountant do it for him. Or he can get out his HP-12C if he's that smart. That's his problem to worry about that, not mine as the seller. I could care less what his interest portion of his payments are. Claim the whole payment for all I care, Lou.
So
I just don't care.
He can't prove it then.
I have never had a seller ever ask me, well, how do I know what interest this portion of this payment
I'm just asking.
Well, I would say take a copy of your note and go to your accountant and let him figure out your amortization for you and let him worry about it. Yes.
You know, at the end of the year when you get that statement, a friend of mine in that Pittsburgh group, this is what he does. He's an accountant. He sends it, whatever tax form has to be sent in, 10 for the tax reporting.
Yep.
He sends a report to the IRS with his name on it.
Yeah.
Transferring the interest for him.
Okay.
He gets a statement at the end, and that's how you get the yearly deduction.
All right, let's don't get caught up in all these details that don't matter now. None of that is really relevant to the plan that I'm giving you to make money with what's available out there to you. Question over here.
I've got one more picky detail for you. What if Lou goes down to his post office and files a change of address form and everything's sent to his new address now? Or Chet.
Oh, Chet?
Yeah, he's the guy who left, the original seller, and he files a change of address, and the post office starts shooting everything to his new address.
Well, if that's the case, I would ask him to send the payment book to Lou, or I would simply send a letter to the bank. I would tell Lou to send a letter to or I'd tell Chet to send a letter to the bank asking them to send the payment book, or keep sending the payment book, or I don't know. To tell you the truth, by the time I got to that point, it'd be Lou's problem anyway, wouldn't it? Man. Are you sure you guys aren't concerned about us getting hit by lightning on the way to the closing? These are good questions, though, aren't they? I think that Chet will make sure it gets back there if he wants the payments to be made, but even if he doesn't, do you have to have the payment book to make the payment? All he's got to do is put the loan number on the check and send it in, and it'll get applied. Let's do the CYA letters and then take a break here. Hey. All right, here's a break that the seller would sign. I mean, the break. Here's the CYA letter that I would have for the seller to sign. I've been made aware that my loan on the property at 123 Main Street contains a due on sale clause, which means the lender has the right to call the entire loan due upon transfer of title. I understand the loan will stay in my name until it's paid off or assumed by a future buyer. I'm aware that the above buyer has no intentions of assuming said loan and that no promises have been made to me that the loan will be assumed or paid off. I agree to hold harmless buyer or assign shown on the attached agreement or any future buyer in the event the loan is called due or goes in default for any reason. Is that kind of telling it like it is? Now, if there's payments behind, you might go on to say, in this case there is one, isn't there? The buyer has agreed to make up the back payments only upon resale of the property. No promises have been made to do so prior to that time. If buyer is unable to resell the property, I understand the payments may not be brought current and the property may go into foreclosure, in which case the buyer will be held harmless. Now, what else do I need to tell Chet? I mean, by the way, does this mean that Chet couldn't sue me for something if he wanted to, if things went wrong? He could sue me anytime he wants, can he? But with this in my possession, he's going to have a hard time claiming foul. Now, how do you think I learned this? Sellers have a very short memory once you've solved their problem. Or they think you have. Okay? They forgot what was said. I just want to reinforce what was said. Okay? Let's carry it further. I'm selling to Lou now. I have been made aware that the loan on the property I'm purchasing contains a due on sale clause, which means the lender may call the loan due upon transfer of the property to me. I agree if this should happen, it would be my responsibility to either assume the loan or pay it off. If I'm unable to do either or make other arrangements with the lender, I may lose the house to foreclosure. Can I get any clearer than that? You got it, Lou? Okay. If this should happen, I will hold the seller harmless for any loss which may occur. So am I keeping it a secret from Lou that this could happen? See, Lou has to want the house bad enough to risk the bank giving him a problem. If he doesn't, you won't buy. If he does, he will. And will you lose some that don't want to risk it? Yes. So what? You got a bunch of them to pick from. Okay? The more money they have to come to closing with now, the more trouble you're going to have with them wanting to risk it.
Ron, should these letters be notarized to make them...
Wouldn't hurt. Wouldn't hurt. Did we finish with example 2? Nope, we hadn't even started on that one. Example 2 we finished with. Okay. A while ago, let's see, we had this deal here where we just took over this deed from this property and we just took over the loan. There's some things that I need to point out to you. Number 1, if you tell the seller that you will make the payments when and if you get a buyer, and then you get that buyer and you take that buyer's money and you take off and you don't make those payments, that's fraud. You will probably get what you deserve. Free lunch for quite a while. If you do what you say you're going to do and you document that, you should not have any problem. Could the seller come back and sue you? Yes, they could. They can always sue you. Could Lou come back and sue you if he loses money? He could. He's got a tough case because all agreements come down to intent, folks. And if I can pull out this thing and show that we had clear intent, he's going to have a hard time crying foul. What if I got this property and worst case scenario, all I could get out of it was $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000? Could some buyer come in and buy this thing and physically live out $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000 in rent if they needed to? Yes. So, the more money you get, as I said, the more it's going to become a problem to liquidate the property. But I'm telling you, when you deal in gorgeous houses in gorgeous areas, buyers will do anything to buy them if they don't have to go to the bank to get the money. You ain't going to believe that till you get your nose to the grindstone.